What is up, everybody? Matt Modi here to give you a Super Bowl betting preview. And then there were two. Last game of the 2024-2025 NFL season is upon us. It's a reboot, deja vu all over again, Eagles versus Chiefs. I'm recording this early in the afternoon, actually late in the afternoon on Monday, early in the betting process for this game. Going to give you kind of just a betting preview, a lay of the land of both of these teams, along with some plays that I like, along with some leans that I have as well. Obviously, everybody knows Eagles versus Chiefs. Obviously, everybody knows it's a rematch from the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Obviously, everybody also knows that I'm an Eagles fan. If you couldn't tell by my getup or my background, I am an Eagles fan. I'm going to try to be as objective as possible when I give this analysis, because at the end of the day, those of you watching this YouTube channel don't care that I'm an Eagles fan. You guys just want to make money. Now, unfortunately, to do a quick recap, the playoffs have not gone well for me. I just got to be completely honest. I've had some ladder climbs that just haven't even gotten close. I've had some plays that maybe have had bad luck. Really no other way to say it's just been brutal. That continued yesterday. We were down about 3 units yesterday. Saquon was close to hitting a ladder play, but the game kind of got out of hand and he barely played in the really at the end of the fourth quarter. Will Shipley had a long run that should have been Saquon's. Brian Robinson had 36 yards heading into the fourth quarter. Ended the game with also 36 yards because they're down a couple scores in the fourth quarter. Pretty tough stuff there. And then the Jalen Hurts first quarter thing really didn't even come close. He just didn't need to. It was a long drive by the Commanders. Long touchdown run from Saquon kind of killed that. Chiefs-Bills game was better, but didn't do enough to make up from how bad the other game was. So down about 3 units last week on the entire season. That now brings our profit to 33 units of profit on the year, up above 14% ROI. It's really frustrating because we had such a good regular season, and we're literally down 10 units in 3 weeks of this NFL playoffs. It's the worst 3-week stretch that we have had this season. We had a brutal 2-week stretch, but it's never been 3 weeks like this. So it's just frustrating. It is what it is. Sometimes these things happen. I'm happy with 33 units of profit. I'm happy with 14% ROI. I just hope to be a little bit better in the playoffs. But I appreciate everybody who's been rocking with me. Let's hope we have a nice Super Bowl for us. I cashed a really juicy plus 2,000 banger in the Super Bowl last year. Maybe we have something in store for that this year as well. Would appreciate it. Like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know in the comments who you're rooting for. Are you going to be with me rooting for the Eagles? Are you going to be rooting for a three-peat for the Chiefs? Put that bad boy in the comments. Let's start talking about this game. So I have Outlier up on my screen here. If you're interested in checking Outlier out, I put a link to them in the description of the video. If you do sign up, it would help me out if you use my link, just if you want to support the channel. If not, no problem. So Chiefs open up as 2-point favorites. Quickly went down to 1.5. That's mostly where it's stuck. Obviously, this is that's less than 24 hours of the betting market. So these numbers might change over the course of the week. Plus 110 on the money line for the Eagles if you think they're going to win straight up. If you don't want to mess with the spread, minus 124 on the money line for the Chiefs. If you just think that Mahomes is inevitable, there you go. Pretty even split in terms of the money line. 52% of the bets are on the Eagles money line. 52% of the bets are on the Eagles money line. 52% of the money is on the Chiefs. So a little bit more sharp money on the Chiefs. I find these splits stuff pretty fascinating to look at. And then the spread is much, much heavier on the Chiefs. So basically, if people want to back the Eagles, are mostly backing them on the money line. Over under set 49.5, heavily juiced towards not heavily juiced. All the money is towards the over at this point in time. So if you want to get on this now, the total might close a little bit higher. In terms of the two teams, Eagles, amazing season. Chiefs, amazing season. I like to go into some advanced stats just to kind of give you guys a lay of the land on how these teams rank analytically and stuff like that. DVOA is one of the sites that I look at the most, just for like, how good is this team, right? I do a lot of nitty gritty stuff for player props specifically, but when I just want to look at like how good is a team, I go to total DVOA. Now the Chiefs, 6th best DVOA, and this does include the playoffs. Kind of misleading because, it's like they sleptwalked through the entire regular season, almost like they were playing possum. They were awesome yesterday against the Bills. Their offense had like a 99th percentile game. Just an amazing performance from their offense. 6th best offense, 11th best defense according to DVOA. But again, it's the Chiefs. We know they're much better than these stats. The Eagles, defense ranked number 1 according to DVOA. Nobody had that at the beginning of the season. Offense ranks 12th And, these playoffs kind of show the frustrating part of this Eagles offense. The first 2 weeks of the playoffs against the Packers and against the Rams, offense looked lost. If Saquon didn't have explosive runs, they wouldn't have won those games. Obviously, those plays count. But on a down-to-down basis, the Eagles offense wasn't great. And then they just exploded yesterday. Amazing offensive performance, kind of showing why it was so frustrating, how much their offense struggled in those other games, because we saw what that potential is. Now, in terms of this matchup, Eagles offense versus Chiefs defense, one thing that has given the Eagles trouble, it didn't yesterday, but it has in the past, is pressure, right? Blitzing. Well, what is Spags known for? Blitzing. So that's going to be a massive, massive deal, is how Spags decides to play the Eagles, how aggressively, and how the Eagles handle it. They did a mostly really good job handling the blitz yesterday. Spagnuolo is a totally different animal. So that's going to be something obviously to watch out for. Jalen Hurts lit up this Chiefs defense in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, but this Chiefs defense is much better now than they were then. So you can't just say, oh, Jalen Hurts, had one of the best performances in a Super Bowl ever, he's going to do that again. Well, this Chiefs defense is a lot better. On the other side of the ball, Eagles defense is amazing. They've been mostly good all of the playoffs. They've been mostly good all year. They've gotten a ton of turnovers recently. The turnover stuff is not necessarily something you can count on a down-to-down basis, but they play mostly tight coverage. The Commanders, they didn't really have anything easy, but it's the Chiefs. Are you really going to trust any defense against Patrick Mahomes? Probably not. So you would expect that the Chiefs offense would have the better of the Eagles defense, despite the way that they are ranked. In terms of some player prop data, both of these teams are really good stopping the run. This is only in the regular season, so take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. But the Chiefs, third fewest rushing yards per game. The Eagles, fifth fewest rushing yards per game. In terms of yards per attempt, the Chiefs allowed the second fewest. The Eagles allowed the third fewest. Tied with a couple other teams, but two really good run defenses. But also two run defenses that have been kind of leaky in the playoffs. Now, the Eagles' run defense was very good yesterday against the Commanders, but Josh Jacobs had a good game against them in the first round of the playoffs, and Kyren Williams had a good game against them in the second round of the playoffs, and they're missing a starting linebacker. Nakobe Dean went down. He's going to be out for this game. So maybe the Chiefs are able to run the ball better than the Commanders. And on the other side of the field, nobody's been able to stop this Eagles running offense. Nobody. The best running defense all year was the Ravens. The Eagles ran the ball all up and down the Ravens when those two teams played. So even though the Chiefs' run defense is good, we saw Joe Mixon have a good game against them 2 weeks ago. We saw James Cook have a good game against them yesterday. So I would actually put this advantage towards, in terms of, honestly, both these teams, I would favor their offensive running games over the defensive running games. Now, in terms of passing, the Eagles don't really allow much of anything. Yards to wide receivers, the fewest. Receptions to wide receivers, a little bit farther down, because they play such tight coverage that they'll give up short completions, but they do a really, really good job at tackling. The Chiefs are a little more middle of the pack in terms of receiving yards allowed to wide receivers. They're, not middle of the pack, sixth fewest, actually. I was thinking of raw passing yards. Sixth, seventh fewest receiving yards allowed to wide receivers. The biggest difference here is the Eagles are generally pretty good against tight ends. You see that they have allowed the fewest receiving yards to tight ends. Again, on a little bit, receptions are a little bit better. But you know who's on the opposite end of the spectrum? The Kansas City Chiefs literally allow the most receiving yards to tight ends in the entire NFL. Now, one of the bets I got wrong yesterday was I took Dalton Kincaid against the Chiefs. Now, if he could catch the ball, that would have gone over. He did not. So he did not. He did not catch the ball. So he did not go over. But you're going to want to look at Dallas Goedert in this game, right? The Chiefs have, 2 weeks ago, Dalton Schultz had a good game against the Chiefs. In the regular season, Schultz had a good game. Then Freiermuth had a good game. We've targeted tight ends against the Chiefs all year. It's mostly come to fruition. One thing that I do want to just say about the Eagles, their stats look incredible. Zach Ertz blew up against the Eagles yesterday. He had 11 receptions. He had over 100 yards. And one thing that the Eagles defense, they play tight coverage, but not necessarily in the middle of the field, right? They'll have Reed Blankenship, their safety, guard the tight end, because Zach Ertz had a good game against them last week. And the 2 weeks prior to that, the Rams tight end, Tyler Higbee, had a good game against them as well. So I do think that this could be a Travis Kelce game if we're going off of what we saw in the playoffs. Even the first week, The Packers tight end, whose name is escaping me, I should have written it down. I just forgot to. But the Packers tight end had a good game. And not Musgrave, the other guy, had a good game against the Eagles as well. So I do think that, I mean, here's a hot take. I do think that this could be a Travis Kelce game, despite the fact that we see the Eagles allowing the literally the fewest receiving yards to tight ends in the NFL. So we go to Outlier. We look at some props here. There are 3 props that I locked in. Those of you that have watched up until this point, the first, 10 minutes of this video aren't going to be surprised. But I took both tight ends and I took their receiving yards over. So I took Goddard. I actually took him 50 plus. Now these odds have already started to move. So I got 50 plus, plus 107 at DraftKings. We already see it's now down to minus 109. I would check Bet365. Outlier, as of right now, doesn't pull odds, doesn't pull alt odds on Bet365. So last I checked, you could actually get a better price than this minus 106 at FanDuel. But Goddard's been awesome in the playoffs. I mean, the Eagles barely passed the ball in this game. So I get that like 47 yards doesn't look amazing. When you compare that to the Eagles, like that percentage of the pie in terms of the Eagles passing total, 47 is actually pretty good. And then he was awesome against the Rams and he was awesome against the Commanders. His targets in the playoffs, 6 targets against the Packers, 4 against the Rams, but he caught all 4, and that was, remember, in that snowy game where the Eagles couldn't do anything. And then he caught 7 of 8 targets. 8 targets yesterday against the Commanders. I already mentioned the Chiefs allow the most receiving yards to tight ends in the entire NFL. So I think Goddard's going to continue to be pretty heavily involved in this Eagles offense. I mean, since he came back from injury, granted, this was week 18. This was without even the Eagles' backup or starting quarterback. Hurts and Kenny Pickett didn't play in this game. It was their third string Tanner McKee. But they made it a point to get him heavily involved, and then they got him the heck out of there just to make sure that he was good to go. Because you see he missed about a month here. But he's been awesome in the playoffs in his career. He's been awesome in the playoffs this year specifically. And he was awesome in the Super Bowl 2 years ago against the Chiefs. So I like backing Goddard in this one. Again, 50 plus. I got it for plus 107 at DraftKings. I think you can still get a better price at Bet365, so I would check them out. And then on the other side of the field, I went with Kelce. I went with Travis Kelce. It's incredibly square. Anytime you take Kelce, I took him 70 plus. And you can actually get a better price. I got 70 plus at plus 115. You can now get it at plus 126. So you got a worse price on the first play. You're getting a better price on the second one. And, you know, the 2 playoff games ago against the Texans, 117 yards. He had 8 targets. The Bills did a pretty good job against them. Now, he did have a drop, but still, I mean, only 4 targets. You hope for more than 4 targets. This is really a play because of what we saw from the Eagles. Honestly, all 3 playoff games, they've allowed some work to go to the tight end position. It was 2 weeks ago, it was Tyler Higbee. Last week, again, I mentioned that Zach Ertz blew up. I mean, over 100 yards on 11 receptions. And there's just a lot of easy pitch and catch throws that we saw to Zach Ertz last week, or by last week, I mean yesterday, that we also can possibly see in the Super Bowl as well, because again, up the middle of the field, the Eagles are tight on the outside, but they're not as tight in terms of their coverage, in terms of how aggressively they press in the middle of the field. And Patrick Mahomes, we've seen him the last 2 years, more than happy to, 3 years, honestly, going back to the regular season, more than happy to take the check down play and to just kind of move the chains. He's not the deep passing offense that we came to know and love with the Chiefs. It's a lot more shorter stuff. It's crossing patterns, and it's the easy pitch and catch types of plays. And those are all going to go, not all, those are going to go to, a lot of those are going to go to Travis Kelce. And if we saw the Eagles play any type of coverage that we've seen them play the last 2 weeks, Travis Kelce should be open. So Travis Kelce, 70 plus receiving yards, plus 126 odds at FanDuel. This is the best price, so no need to line shop this bad boy. I can tell you this plus 126 is the best price. And then the last play, I already kind of hinted to it. These are the only 3 that I've officially locked in as of right now. And I'm going to give you a couple leans as well. I took Saquon Barkley rushing yards. I took him 125 plus 125 at FanDuel. This is the exact price that I got. So it's completely flipped or completely even. One player getting better price, one player getting worse price, one player getting the same exact price. Saquon had 118 against the Commanders, but that would have been more if this game was close. 119 against the Packers. He would have had more if he didn't slide on the last play of the game where he slid down. He had like 50 yards of green in front of him. And then sandwiched in between that is a close game that he didn't slide, that he ran for 205 yards. And I get it. The Chiefs defense, I told you about how good they were. 3rd fewest rushing yards per game. Joe Mixon had a good game against them 2 weeks ago. James Cook had a good game against them last week. And I mean, nobody's been able to stop this Eagles offense. I mean, I get that he only had 65 yards against the Steelers. The Steelers offense could barely move the ball in this game, and the Eagles threw the ball up and down the field in this game as well. Now, maybe the Eagles do throw the ball up and down the field. Maybe they do. But, I mean, the best run defense in the NFL, he put up 107 yards. And again, he could have had more as well. The Eagles were up 2 scores in the fourth quarter in this game. So Saquon Barkley, 125 plus rushing yards. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you how good this guy is. He had 19 carries yesterday. He ran for like 9 yards per carry, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. Looks like, yards per attempt. So not quite, the 7.9 in back-to-back weeks. Yards per attempt is crazy. He had only 15 carries, actually. I thought he had 19. Only 15 carries. This is not going to be 15. It's going to be 20. It's going to be 25 like we saw the first 2 weeks of the playoffs. And what we saw against the Commanders before, I mean, 29 and 26 in those 2 games. Obviously, the Chiefs are not the Commanders, but Saquon Barkley, it's just tough to go against him. And I know that it burned me last week, but again, and when I say last week, I mean yesterday. But again, if this game was even remotely closer, he would have hit it. So I feel comfortable going right back to it. So that's my last official bet. I haven't looked at the anytime touchdown market yet. I will definitely look into that. A couple leans as of right now is on the Eagles side is A.J. Brown. He scored last week. Finally had a good game. I mean, awesome game last week. He did score in the Super Bowl as well against the Chiefs. Now the Chiefs defense is really good at stopping like receptions and yards, but when it comes down to the red zone, I kind of trust A.J. Brown to get in. And he's actually I know these 2 playoff games were brutal, but he had scored in 3 straight games prior to that. He had looked really, really good. So I like going A.J. Brown, especially like the price at plus 170, both at FanDuel and DraftKings, I think is awesome. Last I checked, you could also get plus 100 on Jalen Hurts. So, okay, that moved. If you could still get plus 100 somewhere, I think that's a good price for Hurts. I'm not going to pay the minus 110. And then on the Chiefs side, I see no reason why to not go right back to Kareem Hunt. One of the bets that I got right was Kareem Hunt to score. Now, these odds also opened up at plus 150, have now gone down to plus 137, so the market is starting to catch up. But, I mean, he scored in 4 straight weeks. He gets the majority of the red zone carries. I mean, he had all 3 of the red zone rush attempts last week. They didn't even bother going to Pacheco. They didn't even bother going to Samaje Perine. Or no, sorry, that was wrong. He had 3 of the 8 red zone rush attempts. I was looking at his, but that's still the majority. Mahomes ran in 2 from the red zone, so you take away 2 there, and then among the running backs, he had the majority of the carries. And like I said, the Eagles' run defense hasn't quite been as good. I mean, they're really good yesterday, but they weren't quite as good the first 2 weeks of the playoffs. So Kareem Hunt is a great bet. And on the other play on the Chiefs side, I mean, you're getting a decent price on Kelsey, plus 135 on Kelsey to score is pretty good. Now, he didn't last week. I know it was a gross game, but he did score 2 weeks ago in the playoff matchup. He scored the Super Bowl 2 years ago that these 2 teams played. He scored. And normally Travis Kelce anytime touchdowns like minus 150. And I get why, because he hasn't done a great, and he scored 4 games this year, 18 including 2 playoff games. So it's not like it's been a typical Travis Kelce, but I mean, in the Super Bowl against a team that kind of does funnel work to the tight end, at least they have recently, I think that makes a ton of sense. None of those are official bets. Again, the only 3 that I actually bet were Saquon, Travis Kelce yards, and Dallas Goedert yards. A couple leans for you guys. I'm going to come back with a bunch of stuff this week. I just want to get this early Super Bowl betting preview out. Kind of give you guys my thoughts, official bets, leans, just a lay of the land on both of these teams. If you thought this video was helpful and you want to see more of this stuff, these preview stuff and moving forward, let me know in the comments. But that's all we got. Again, I appreciate everybody for watching. Make sure to like the video, make sure to comment, make sure to subscribe. Put in the comments who you're rooting for in this game. Are you rooting for, again, my Eagles, or are you rooting for a three-peat? Check out Outlier.bet, who helps me out a ton with my betting. I also have a dub club. So when I talk about like, oh, I sent this out, I'm referring to my dub club, where as soon as I decide what a play is, the first thing I do is send it out to dub club. So if anybody has interest in signing up for that, it's only $5 a month. It gets you all the same plays that you see me give out on YouTube. You just get them early before the odds change. So again, if you're interested, check that out. Check out Outlier. Again, thanks everybody for watching. It's been a fun season. Everybody bet responsibly and have a good one.